I opened the front door, calling out softly, "Clara? You home?" The air felt strange, too still, too cold. She stood by the fireplace, arms crossed, eyes burning. Liam hovered behind her, smirking like he'd just won something I didn't know I was playing for. "Don't pretend you don't know what you've done," Clara said, voice shaking. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "I just got off work." "What's going on?" Liam stepped forward. "Stop lying, Ethan. You think I wouldn't tell her?" "Tell her what?" I looked between them, my chest tightening. Clara's lip trembled. "He said you hurt him, Ethan. That you grabbed him last night when I wasn't home. That you threatened him?" "What?" My voice cracked. "That's insane. I've never laid a hand on him." "Then why would he say it?" She snapped. "Why would my son make that up?" "Maybe because he hates me," I yelled before I could stop myself. "He's never wanted me here, Clara. You know that." "Don't twist this," she shouted back. "He came to me crying. He's terrified of you." Liam's fake tears glimmered as he said, "You always said you loved Mom. Is this what love looks like?" I stared at him, disbelief flooding me. "You're lying, Liam. You know you're lying." "Stop," Clara's voice broke. "I can't listen to this. I saw the bruise on his arm." I froze. "A bruise?" "He showed me," she said, trembling. "Right here." Liam pulled up his sleeve, revealing a faint mark. I'd seen it before, a soccer injury. "Clara," I said quietly, "you were there when he fell last weekend." She shook her head. "No, he said that was a cover. He said you made him lie about it." My mouth went dry. "You believe that?" "I have to protect my son," she whispered. Something inside me cracked. Protect him from what? From me? From the man who's paid his school fees, built this home, fixed his car, stayed up nights waiting for both of you? Her eyes softened for a moment. Then Liam's hand brushed hers and she stiffened. "You're manipulating her," I said, pointing at him. "You've been doing it for months." Liam laughed, a cruel sound. "Maybe she finally sees who you really are." I stepped closer, desperate. "Clara, look at me. I've never hurt anyone. You know me better than that." "I thought I did," she said, her voice breaking. "But you've changed. You've become distant, angry." "Because he's been poisoning everything between us," I shouted. "Every fight we've had started with him." Clara covered her ears. "Enough! I can't do this anymore." The silence that followed was heavy, the kind that ends everything. She turned away. "I want you out, Ethan." My heartbeat stopped. "What?" "Leave tonight. You're kicking me out because of a lie?" She faced me again, tears streaming. "Because I don't know what's true anymore. Then ask me," I pleaded. "Ask the man you married, not the boy feeding you lies." "I can't," she whispered. "I can't trust you." For a long time, I just stood there, breathing like a man drowning. Liam smiled faintly behind her, satisfied. I walked toward the door, my chest burning. "One day," I said quietly, "you'll realize what you've done." "Don't make this harder," she said. I looked at her, my wife, my home, my entire life, and saw nothing left to fight for. "Goodbye." "Clara," she didn't answer. As I stepped outside, the air felt colder than it ever had. The sky was bruised with clouds, like it knew what had happened inside that house. I stood in the driveway, staring at the windows where we once laughed, and whispered to no one, "Love shouldn't end like this." Behind the glass, Liam's shadow moved beside her. I saw her rest a hand on his shoulder, believing she was comforting her son. But all I could see was the truth she refused to see, that her son had just destroyed everything we ever were. I turned away, clutching my car keys, forcing myself not to look back. Every step away from that door felt like I was leaving behind a life that no longer wanted me. When I started the engine, I heard her voice in my head, trembling and angry. "I can't trust you." Those words echoed like a curse I couldn't escape. By the time I drove away, I wasn't the same man anymore. Something in me had died, and something else, cold, quiet, and determined, had just begun to live. The night swallowed me whole. I sat in my car outside the house that no longer felt like mine, staring at the lit windows. "Those are my lights," I whispered, "but not my home anymore." I could see their shadows moving inside, Clara pacing, Liam talking fast, maybe spinning another story. My fingers dug into the steering wheel. I wanted to knock on the door, scream, "You're wrong!" But what would it change? My phone buzzed nonstop. Daniel, Sarah, unknown numbers. I let them all ring. When I finally answered, Sarah's voice cut through the static. Ethan, where are you? Nowhere, I said. That's not an answer. I'm fine. Don't lie to me. Clara called. She told me what Liam said, and you believe it too? I didn't say that, she replied gently. I just need to see you. There's nothing to see, Sarah. I'm sitting outside my house like a ghost. Then drive, she said. Anywhere but there. I wanted to move, but my hands wouldn't obey. It's all gone, Sarah. Everything. She looked at me like I was a stranger. You can't change her belief tonight. Just breathe, I laughed bitterly. You know what's funny? I didn't even get to explain. Liam spoke and she listened. I opened my mouth and she shut the door. Ethan, I gave her everything. Every dream, every piece of peace I had left. And she threw it away because that boy cried at the right time. Sarah sighed. Come to my place, please. You shouldn't be alone. I need to be, I muttered. I need to understand what the hell just happened. She hesitated. At least promise me you won't do anything stupid. I'm not drunk, not broken enough to crash yet. That's not funny. I wasn't joking. Silence filled the line. Then she whispered, I'll leave the porch light on. The call ended. I started the engine, but I didn't drive away yet. I watched that house again, waiting for Clara to appear at the window, maybe realize the mistake, maybe call my name. But she didn't. I whispered to the empty street. I didn't hurt him, Clara. I would have died before I did that. The sky dimmed into gray. I drove aimlessly through the sleeping town, past the park where we first kissed, past the cafe where she laughed too loud, past the school where Liam once called me Dad by accident. Everything looked familiar and cruel. At a red light, I finally spoke to myself. You lost your home, not your truth. The words sounded weak. By dawn, I parked near the river. Cold mist crawled up the windshield. My reflection stared back. Tired eyes, unshaven jaw, the face of a man erased from his own life. I closed my eyes, whispering to the silence, why wasn't love enough? A knock on my window startled me. I turned and saw Sarah standing there, arms crossed, eyes red from crying. How the hell did you find me? I asked, rolling down the window. You share your location with me, idiot, she said, voice trembling between anger and worry. Get out of the car. I'm fine. You look like a man about to disappear. I already did. She opened the door herself. Get up! Sarah, don't get up! I stepped out, defeated. She looked at me, then at the car packed with nothing but silence. You didn't even grab your clothes. What's the point? I asked. She doesn't want me back. She doesn't know the truth, Sarah said. And until she does, you stay with me. End of story. I tried to protest, but her glare silenced me. You always were bossy. And you always were stupid, she replied softly. Now come on. In her driveway, the morning sun spilled across the cracked pavement. She turned to me before going inside. You can fall apart in there if you need to. I'll catch you before you hit the floor. Her words broke whatever strength I had left. My throat tightened. I tried to speak, but no words came. She stepped closer. Ethan, it's okay to cry. I shook my head. Not for me. Then cry for the man who lost everything he built. Her voice shattered me. I covered my face, the tears spilling before I could stop them. She wrapped her arms around me, not saying a word. I whispered through the sobs. I didn't cry when I left the house. Not even when she told me to go. But now... Now you're safe, Sarah said. No, I thought. I'm not safe. I'm just empty. Still, I let her guide me inside. For the first time that night, I didn't fight the pain. And when I finally closed my eyes on her couch, I wasn't crying because I lost a home. I was crying because I'd lost my place in someone's heart. The knock on the door came early, too early for good news. I opened it and found a courier holding an envelope. Ethan Cole? Yeah, I said, already uneasy. He handed it to me. You've been served. The words hit like a slap. I stared at the papers even before closing the door. Petition for divorce. I laughed once, sharp and hollow. So that's how she says goodbye. Sarah came from the kitchen, wiping her hands. What's that? Her final gift, I said, tossing the envelope onto the table. She picked it up, read the heading, and froze. Oh, Ethan. I didn't look at her. I just sank into the chair. She didn't even call, just this. Sarah sat across from me, quiet for a moment. You don't have to open it right now. I already know what's inside, I said. Accusations, lies, the story Liam told rewritten in legal language. She hesitated. Do you want me to call Daniel? Yeah. He's the only one who'll know what to do. While she dialed, I finally opened the papers. Every line cut deeper. Emotional cruelty, verbal abuse, psychological manipulation. The words didn't even sound like me. They sounded like someone else's nightmare. When Daniel arrived an hour later, he tossed his coat on the chair. I came as soon as I heard. You holding up? I pushed the papers toward him. Read for yourself, he skimmed them, eyebrows furrowing. She's going for full separation. No reconciliation period. She doesn't want the truth, I said. She just wants me erased, Daniel sighed. Liam's name appears in every section. She's basing her entire case on his testimony. I clenched my fists. That kid lied, Daniel. You know it, I know it, even Sarah knows it. He nodded. I believe you. But the court doesn't know you, and right now, public sympathy is on her side. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. So what do I do? Sit here while she destroys me? You fight, he said. But calmly. You don't get angry, you don't lash out. You show them who you are, consistent, honest, restrained. I laughed bitterly. Restrained? They called me a monster, Daniel. She accused me of breaking her son's arm. I know, he said quietly. And that's exactly why you can't lose control. They expect rage, don't give it to them. Sarah crossed her arms. She's destroying him, Daniel. How can she live with herself? Daniel looked at me, not her. People believe what makes them feel safe. Maybe Clara can't handle the idea that she chose the wrong man. It's easier to believe the lie. The words hit harder than the papers. So I'm her mistake now? You're not anyone's mistake, Sarah said fiercely. You're the one who built that life. I met her eyes. And she's the one tearing it down, Daniel exhaled. I'll file your response, Ethan. We'll challenge the claims point by point. It'll take time. How much time? I asked. As long as it takes to prove you're not the man she says you are. I stared at the table. You ever feel like truth isn't enough? Daniel hesitated. More often than I'd like. The room went quiet. Rain started tapping against the window. Sarah went to make coffee, but I just sat there tracing the edges of the paper like it might cut me again. Finally, I whispered, You know what hurts the most? Not the lies. Not the case. It's that she didn't even ask me once if it was true. Daniel closed the folder slowly. Maybe one day she will. I shook my head. No, she's too deep in it now. Liam's got her where he wants her, blind and angry. He stood up. Then don't fight her with anger. Fight her with patience. Let the truth burn its way out. It always does. I looked at him. You really believe that? He gave a small smile. I've seen worse lies fall apart. Sarah came back with 3 mugs. Then here's to truth. I raised mine half-heartedly. To truth, slow, painful, and always late. When they left that night, I sat alone, the papers still open on the table. My name was printed a dozen times beneath accusations that didn't belong to me. I signed my response with trembling hands, whispering to the empty room, This isn't the end, Clara. You took my love. You took my home, but you don't get to take my name. The pen scratched across the paper, sealing the start of a war I never wanted. Sarah walked into the living room with that look people wear when they're afraid to tell you the truth. She sat across from me and said, Ethan, I saw Clara today. I felt something tighten in my chest. Where? I asked, even though part of me already knew I wouldn't like the answer. Sarah exhaled slowly. Downtown. She wasn't alone. I stared at her, waiting. She continued. She was with her boss, Mr. Harrison. Her voice softened. They looked comfortable. I closed my eyes, imagining Clara laughing the way she used to laugh with me. I tried to smile, but my voice cracked. Maybe she just needed company. Sarah shook her head. It wasn't that kind of company, Ethan. She was smiling at him like he mattered. I leaned back, letting the truth hit me. So that's how fast she moved on. Ethan, she's hurting too, she said. No, I replied, shaking my head. She's not hurting. She's replacing. Sarah bit her lip. What are you going to do? I don't know, I whispered. But I need answers. That night, I called a private investigator named Mark. When he picked up, I said, I need someone followed. He asked who, and the words tasted bitter. My wife, Clara. He paused before asking why. Because something's wrong, I said. And I need proof. Over the next week, Mark called me with updates. Each call felt like a punch. They're together again, he'd say. Or they had dinner tonight. I kept asking, are you sure? And every time he answered, I'm sure. I hated how calm he sounded. One evening, he said, I have something you need to see. I met him in his car outside a gas station. He handed me a small folder. Pictures, he said. My hands shook as I opened it. The first photo showed Clara and Harrison holding hands like they'd been doing it for years. I felt my chest twist.
She really did this, I whispered.
Mark nodded. There's more. I flipped through the photos, her leaning on his shoulder, him touching her waist, both laughing like nothing in the world had ever hurt them. That's enough, I said, closing the folder. Mark watched me. What do you want to do now? I breathed in slowly. I want the truth, I said. Not revenge. Not anger. Just truth, he nodded again. Then this is where it starts. I stared at the folder, feeling something sharp replace the ache in my chest. Sarah called later that night. Did you find out anything? She asked. I hesitated before answering. Yeah, more than I wanted, she sighed. Ethan, I'm sorry. I shook my head even though she couldn't see it. Don't be. I needed clarity and now I have it. Are you okay? She asked. No, I admitted. But I'm awake. What does that mean? It means I finally see what's been happening behind those smiles. She was silent for a moment. What will you do now? I'll let the truth walk to them, I said. They built this lie. They can answer for it. The next morning, I stood at the window holding the folder again. Every image felt like a final nail. But strangely, there was no rage left in me, just a cold, steady calm. They destroyed me for lies, I whispered. Now they'll face the truth. And for the first time, I believed it. I sat on Sarah's couch, the folder beside me, when she walked in with 2 cups of coffee. You look different, she said. I laughed weakly. Because something in me broke and something else finally woke up. She handed me a cup. So what now? I stared into the coffee, watching the steam twist like my thoughts. Now I stop waiting for Clara to see me, I said. Now I see myself. Sarah nodded slowly. You're stronger than you think, Ethan. I shook my head. I'm not strong. I'm just done being blind. She sat next to me. Whatever comes next, you don't face it alone. I looked at the folder again, feeling that quiet fire rise. I know, I said. But they do, I whispered. This is only the beginning now. Mark called early in the morning. His voice was tense. Ethan, you need to see this in person. I felt a chill. Is it about Clara? I asked. No, he said. It's about Liam and Harrison. When I reached his office, he slid a folder toward me. Open it, he said. My fingers trembled as I lifted the cover. Inside were printed emails, dates, names, all real. I read the first line and froze. If he's gone, Mom will finally see who really cares about her. It was from Liam. I stared at the words. What the hell is this? Mark leaned forward. It gets worse. Keep reading. The next message was from Harrison. You're smart, kid. Let me handle the rest. Just make her doubt him. I felt my pulse pounding in my ears. He used him, I muttered. Mark sighed. No, Ethan. They used each other. My voice broke. Liam saw Harrison as the father I was trying to be. Exactly, Mark said. Harrison wanted Clara. Liam wanted approval. You were in the way. I looked at the pictures again, the same ones of Clara and Harrison, but now they had context. Lies stitched together to create the story that ruined me. He plotted this, I whispered. A boy who called me Dad. Mark placed a USB drive on the table. Every email, every chat. It's all here. Do you want me to forward it to your lawyer? I nodded slowly. Send it. But don't release anything yet. When I got to Daniel's office, he was already reading the files Mark had sent. He looked up with a grim smile. Well, this changes everything. I sank into the chair opposite him. Tell me you can do something with it. He leaned back. Ethan, this isn't just gossip. These are written conspiracies. We can file for defamation, false accusation, even fraud. They're done. I stared at the floor. I don't want to destroy them, Daniel. He frowned. After everything they did to you? I just want the truth out, I said quietly. Let the world see what really happened. Daniel studied me for a moment. You've changed, he said. Maybe I'm just tired, I replied. Tired of bleeding for people who enjoy watching it. He gave a short laugh. That's the voice of a man who's done being a victim. For the first time, I felt something unfamiliar. Control. What happens next? I asked. He picked up his pen. We'll prepare a counter-petition. Evidence like this can flip the whole case. Once the court sees it, Clara will realize everything she built was based on lies. I hesitated. And Liam? Daniel sighed. He's just a kid manipulated by an older man. But yes, his part in this can't be ignored. I rubbed my temples. He's not a kid anymore. He made choices. Later that night, Sarah found me staring at the computer screen. You got something, didn't you? She asked. Proof, I said softly. They framed me, Sarah. Every word, every story, it was planned. She walked closer. And now I fight differently, I said. No shouting. No begging. Just truth, she nodded slowly. I can see it in your eyes. You're not the same man who cried in his car that night. I smiled faintly. That man died when Clara signed those papers. Sarah placed her hand on my shoulder. What if she comes back when she learns the truth? I looked at her and said, then she'll find a man she can't break again. The next morning, Daniel called. Ethan, I just sent the legal draft. Once we submit this, everything shifts. Do it, I said. He hesitated. You sure? Yes, I replied. This isn't revenge. It's redemption. When the call ended, I sat alone holding the printed emails. Every message was a scar, but scars don't bleed. They remind you of survival, I whispered to myself. They tried to bury me with lies, but all they did was plant me deeper into the truth. For the first time in months, I felt calm. I wasn't the broken husband anymore. I was the man who knew exactly what they'd done, and I wasn't afraid to face them. I closed the folder and whispered, this time, they'll hear my side. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and fear. I sat beside Daniel, my palms pressed together, while across the aisle Clara avoided my gaze. She looked smaller than I remembered, dressed in a pale blue suit, her hand gripping Liam's like he was her lifeline. Daniel leaned toward me. You ready? I've been ready since the night she threw me out, I whispered. The judge entered. Everyone stood. My heart pounded like it was fighting its own chains. When we sat again, the world went silent except for the sound of papers shuffling and lives unraveling. Clara's lawyer started, calm and confident. Your Honor, my client stands by her testimony. Daniel rose before he could finish. Your Honor, before we proceed, I'd like to submit new evidence. Emails, photographs, and verified witness statements. The judge nodded. Proceed. Daniel handed the documents to the clerk. He turned to the courtroom and said, these materials reveal a conspiracy between Liam Porter and Mr. Richard Harrison, Clara's employer, to fabricate claims against my client. Clara's lawyer laughed softly. Objection. Baseless accusation. Overruled, the judge said sharply. Daniel clicked the projector remote. My heart froze when the first email appeared on the screen. If he's gone, Mom will finally see who really cares about her. The words hit like knives. Gasps filled the room. Clara's lips parted. Liam, what is that? She whispered. Liam's hand slipped from hers. It's fake! It has to be fake. Daniel's voice stayed steady. We have authentication records, timestamps, and server verification. Would you like the IT expert to testify again? The lawyer's confidence cracked. We'll review that. The judge frowned. You'll review it now. Daniel showed the next message. Harrison's name glared from the top. You're doing great, kid. Keep feeding her doubts. Once she files, we'll both be free, Clara gasped, covering her mouth. He lied to me. I looked at her for the first time. So did your son, I said quietly. The judge tapped his pen. Mr. Porter, do you wish to comment? Liam stuttered. I just wanted Mom to be happy. He was always gone. I thought Daniel cut him off. You thought destroying an innocent man would make her happy? Liam's voice trembled. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Clara turned to him, tears spilling. You said he hurt you, Liam. You swore he did. He shook his head violently. Harrison told me what to say. I didn't think she'd believe it. Her sobs echoed through the courtroom. I built my hate on lies. The judge leaned back. The evidence speaks for itself. The claims of abuse are dismissed. Clara's lawyer stood weakly. Your Honor, we request time to... Denied, the judge interrupted. Your client fabricated a narrative that destroyed a man's reputation. This court will not tolerate deceit. Daniel placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. We did it, he whispered. I didn't smile. I just stared at the two people who had once been my family. Clara's eyes met mine, full of shame, regret, and something else. Realization. Ethan, she said, her voice trembling. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I answered quietly. You never asked to know. Liam tried to speak, but his words dissolved into tears. I thought you'd forgive me if you ruined my life? I asked, my tone calm. That's not forgiveness, Liam. That's cowardice. The bailiff called for silence as the judge gave his final note. Case dismissed. Mr. Gray, your name is cleared. I stood slowly, every breath feeling heavier than the last. Clara reached out as if to stop me. Please, Ethan. I didn't mean for this. I stepped back. You meant every doubt, every accusation. Now you can live with them. The courtroom buzzed with whispers as I walked out. Behind me, I heard Clara cry out my name. I didn't turn around. Outside, Daniel caught up with me. You could have celebrated in there. I looked up at the sky, its color fading into gray. There's nothing to celebrate about proving I was never a monster. He nodded quietly. What now? I took a deep breath. Now I live. They'll have to face the wreckage they made, and I'll finally breathe without begging anyone to believe me. As I stepped down the courthouse stairs, I heard Liam shouting behind the doors. Clara's sobs mixed with his panic. The world was finally hearing the truth they buried me under. I didn't smile. I just whispered, justice doesn't need applause, it just needs to be seen. The courthouse doors closed behind me with a sound that felt final. Papers in my hand, sky above me, freedom at last. Yet I felt nothing. Daniel caught up, breathing hard. You're officially a free man, he said with a smile. Free, I repeated quietly. Strange word, isn't it? Everyone thinks it feels light. To me, it feels hollow. He looked at me, concerned. You won, Ethan. You proved the truth. Winning doesn't feel like victory when love was the battlefield, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He sighed. You'll heal. You just don't know it yet. Maybe, I said. But right now, I just want silence. I walked to my car and sat inside, staring at the courthouse steps where Clara once stood by my side. My phone buzzed, a new voicemail. I didn't need to check who it was. Her name still flashed across the screen like a wound that refused to close. I hesitated, then pressed play. Ethan! Her voice trembled through the speaker. I don't expect forgiveness. I didn't know what to believe. I destroyed everything, didn't I? She sniffled. Liam's gone. Harrison's vanished. I'm left with nothing. I wish I could take it all back. I turned it off halfway. My heart wanted to feel, but my soul had grown tired of pain. You had everything, I whispered to the empty car. You just didn't want me. That night, the apartment felt colder than usual. Empty walls, half-packed boxes, and silence that rang louder than any argument. I made myself coffee and sat by the window, watching the city lights blink like quiet witnesses. Then came a soft knock. I opened the door to find Grace, my old neighbor from across the hall. She held a casserole dish and a kind smile. You look like someone who hasn't eaten in days, she said. I managed a weak grin. You're not wrong. Then move, she said, brushing past me. I didn't spend 2 hours baking for you to stand there looking miserable. Her energy filled the room instantly. You always had that brooding husband vibe, she teased, setting the dish on the table. I used to be a husband, I said softly. Now I'm just trying to remember who I was before that. She looked at me seriously. And who was that? A man who believed love could fix anything. Grace sat down. Love doesn't fix. It reveals. Sometimes it shows the best in people, sometimes the rot. I chuckled bitterly. Guess I saw the rot. She tilted her head. Maybe, but you're still here, which means it didn't destroy you. I poured us both coffee. Everyone keeps saying I should feel free now. She sipped her drink. Do you? No, I said. I feel like I've escaped a cage but forgot what to do with open air. Then breathe, she said simply. Don't rush to fill the silence. Let it teach you something. We ate quietly for a while. Her presence was oddly comforting. No judgment, no pity, just calm. You know, she said suddenly, I used to see you and Clara walking your dog every morning. You looked like people who had it all. I nodded slowly. We did for a while. Until trust became optional. Grace's voice softened. Then make trust mandatory again, but start with yourself. Her words lingered long after she left. I washed the dishes she used, the sound of running water grounding me in a way nothing else had. When I turned off the tap, the apartment felt different, still quiet, but not lonely. Before bed, I checked my phone one last time. Clara's message was still there. I hovered over it, then deleted it. No anger, no satisfaction, just peace. Lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling. For months, every night had ended in tears or rage. But this one was different. The silence felt gentle, not cruel. I could finally close my eyes without replaying accusations or betrayal. As sleep crept in, I whispered to myself, maybe freedom isn't about losing chains. Maybe it's about learning to live without the noise. And for the first time since my world fell apart, I slept without dreams. The morning felt quiet. Too quiet. I was making coffee when my phone buzzed. Daniel's name flashed on the screen. I answered, already sensing something unusual in his tone. Ethan, he said, his voice edged with restrained excitement. You might want to sit down. I leaned against the counter. That serious? He exhaled sharply. Harrison's company under investigation. Financial fraud, embezzlement, false records. The whole thing's coming apart. I blinked, silent for a few seconds. You're kidding. No. The SEC raided his offices this morning. It's all over the news. I laughed quietly, not from joy, but disbelief. So the empire finally cracks. Daniel chuckled softly. Karma doesn't miss. What about Clara? I asked. He hesitated. She was fired last week. Apparently, her boss found out she was connected to Harrison's mess. Reputation's in ashes. I swallowed, the words settling like cold wind inside me. And Liam? Daniel sighed. That kid. He got caught hacking the university system. Tried to change his grades. Expelled. Permanent record. I set my mug down and stared at the steam rising from it. And to think, I didn't have to do a single thing. That's the beauty of it, Daniel said. You let truth handle it. I didn't want revenge, I murmured. Just balance. You got it, he replied. Life's scales have a funny way of evening out. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, letting the silence stretch. The air didn't taste like victory. It tasted like closure. Later that evening, I took a walk. The city had begun to cool with autumn, the streets littered with golden leaves. My steps carried me down an old path I hadn't walked in months. When I realized where I was heading, I almost turned back, but something inside urged me forward. Their house stood there, the one that used to glow with laughter and light. Now, it looked different. Empty windows, weeds crawling across the front yard, a for sale sign tilting slightly. I stopped by the gate, staring at what used to be the center of my heartbreak. I whispered to myself, you threw me out once. Now life has thrown you out. A part of me expected satisfaction, maybe even triumph. But all I felt was peace. Gentle, quiet peace. I remembered the nights I'd stood outside this same house, begging Clara to listen, to trust me, to see the truth. I remembered Liam's cold eyes, Harrison's smirk, the humiliation that nearly broke me. And now, the silence answered back for me. Grace's voice echoed in my mind from weeks ago. Don't rush to fill the silence. Let it teach you something. I smiled faintly.
You were right, Grace, I whispered.
Silence really does speak. As I turned to leave, a voice called from across the street. Ethan? I looked up. It was Mrs. Connors, the elderly neighbor who used to gossip with Clara on weekends. She walked over, pulling her cardigan tighter. Haven't seen you here in months, she said softly. Didn't think I'd ever come back, I replied. She nodded toward the house. Such a shame. They were good people once. People change, I said. Or maybe they just stop pretending. Her eyes softened. You seem different. I finally stopped fighting ghosts, I said. She smiled faintly. Then you've won more than any of them ever did. When she left, I lingered for a moment longer, then slipped my hands into my pockets and walked home. The sky above was turning indigo, the kind of sky that doesn't need words. Back at my apartment, I found Grace waiting outside my door with 2 cups of coffee. "Evening," she said. "You disappeared on me." "Just went for a walk," I replied. She handed me a cup. "You look calmer." "I saw their house," I said. "It's empty now." Grace's brows lifted slightly. "How does it feel?" "Strangely peaceful," I said. "Like the universe whispered, 'Enough!'" She smiled knowingly. "Then maybe it's time you start living for something new." "Maybe it is," I said, looking out the window. We stood there, side by side, watching the city lights flicker alive. For the first time, the silence between words didn't hurt. It healed. The knock came early, soft, hesitant. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, time seemed to pause. Clara stood there, her eyes swollen, her hands trembling. Behind her, Liam hovered, pale and silent. "Ethan," she whispered, voice barely holding together. "Can we talk?" I stepped aside slowly. "If you think there's anything left to say." She walked in like someone entering a church she'd abandoned years ago. The air between us felt heavy. Liam spoke first, his tone uneven. I told her everything. About Harrison. About the lies. I looked at him, expression blank. "Took you long enough." He dropped his eyes. I didn't understand what I was doing. "You understood fine," I said quietly. "You just didn't care," Clara's voice cracked. "Ethan, please, don't be cruel. I already live with enough of it." I took a slow breath. "Cruel? You accused me of being cruel. You believed your son over your husband. And now you want kindness?" Tears slid down her face. I believed what I thought was true. Harrison made me think. I cut her off gently. "Stop. You don't get to blame him. You had a choice. You looked me in the eyes and still walked away." She pressed a hand to her chest, her words trembling. I was scared. Everything felt so real, the messages, the stories. I thought I was protecting Liam. I shook my head. "You were protecting your pride, not your son." Silence stretched between us. Liam wiped his eyes, stepping forward. "I ruined everything. Harrison promised to help me, said you were holding Mom back." I believed him. I met his gaze. "Belief isn't the same as blindness, Liam. You wanted a father figure." "You found one, and he used you." He nodded, voice small. "I know that now." Clara turned toward me again, desperate. "Ethan, I was wrong. I see it all now. The way you tried, the way you stayed patient. I destroyed everything we had." Her words should have hurt, but they didn't. They just drifted through me like echoes from another life. "I waited for you to see," I said quietly. "But by the time you did, there was nothing left to save." She reached out, fingers shaking. "Please, just tell me you can forgive me." I stared at her hand for a long moment before stepping back. "Forgiveness isn't about you anymore, Clara. It's what I needed to move on." Her lips trembled. "So you've moved on?" I nodded. "I have peace now." "That's better than love built on lies," she broke down, covering her face. "I can't live with what I did." "You will," I said softly. "Because now you live with the truth," Liam whispered. "Can we ever fix this?" I looked at him, his guilt, his regret, and shook my head. "Some things aren't meant to be fixed. They're meant to be remembered." Clara lifted her face, eyes red. "I thought you'd hate me forever." "I did," I admitted. "But hate fades when the pain finally stops mattering." She tried to smile through tears. "You were always the better person." "No," I said. "Just the one who finally learned to let go." She looked around the room, at the walls that once heard our laughter, now painted over by silence. "It feels strange being here again," she whispered. "It's not your home anymore," I said quietly. Liam turned toward the door. "We should go, Mom." Clara hesitated, her eyes lingering on me. "Ethan, if I could undo it all." "You can't," I interrupted softly. "But you can live with what you did. That's enough." She nodded slowly, a tear sliding down her cheek. "Thank you for listening." "I didn't do it for you," I replied. "I did it for me." They left without another word. When the door closed, the silence that followed felt different, gentle, almost kind. I stood there, breathing it in, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Release. Outside, I watched them walk down the street, 2 silhouettes swallowed by morning light. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sorrow. Just calm acceptance. For the first time, I realized closure doesn't come from apologies. It comes from peace within. I whispered to the quiet room, "You believed lies over love. Now you live with the truth." And for the first time, the truth didn't hurt. A year changes everything. When I looked around my new office, the sunlight spilling across the desk, I almost didn't recognize my own reflection in the glass. I had rebuilt what I'd lost, slowly, painfully, but honestly. Grace knocked softly and stepped inside. "You're early again," she said, smiling. "You never rest." I leaned back in my chair. Rest feels strange after fighting storms for so long. She placed a cup of coffee in front of me. "Then it's time to learn peace. You've earned it." I looked at her for a long moment. "You really believe that?" "I don't believe," she said gently. "I see it. You've done more than survive, Ethan. You've healed." Her words sank deep. For months, I'd lived with the idea that survival was enough. But now maybe I was living again. I smiled faintly. "Funny. A year ago I was sleeping in my car talking to ghosts in my head. Now I'm running a company again." Grace laughed softly. "You didn't rebuild for revenge. You rebuilt for yourself. That's what makes it real." "Maybe," I said, looking out the window. "But some nights I still think of them. Clara and Liam?" I nodded. Not with anger, just reflection. Grace sat across from me, her eyes warm. "That's what forgiveness looks like." "I don't know if it's forgiveness," I said quietly. "It's more like peace. I stopped waiting for apologies that mean nothing." She tilted her head. "You think they regret it?" "I know they do," I said. "But regret isn't redemption." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The clock ticked softly, the hum of the city below faint and steady. Grace broke the silence. "I heard Harrison's company folded. All those fraud charges finally caught up to him." I nodded. "Yeah, he lost everything." "Clara lost her job soon after. Liam dropped out of school. Do you feel sorry for them?" I exhaled slowly. "A part of me does. Another part knows life simply gave back what they gave out." She smiled faintly. "Karma doesn't forget." "No," I said. "It just waits for the right moment." Grace reached across the desk, her fingers brushing mine. "And what about you? What are you waiting for now?" I looked at her hand, soft and steady. "Nothing. For the first time in years, I'm not chasing, proving, or fixing. I'm just being," she smiled. "That sounds like freedom." "It is," I said. "Freedom without bitterness. That's the best kind." I stood and walked to the window. Below, the city pulsed with life, people rushing, building, loving, breaking. I'd been all of them once. Now I just watched calm. "Do you ever miss her?" Grace asked softly behind me. I turned slightly. "Clara?" She nodded. I thought for a moment. "I miss who I thought she was. But I don't miss who she became." Grace nodded slowly. "That's fair." "She was my greatest love," I said quietly, "and my harshest teacher." Grace smiled. "Then she served her purpose." "Maybe she did," I said. "Because without losing her, I wouldn't have found me." There was a gentle silence, the kind that doesn't need filling. Grace stood adjusting her coat. "You've come far, Ethan. Don't look back anymore." I nodded. "I don't, I just remember, so I never repeat." She grinned. "Good, now come on. Dinner's on me tonight?" I chuckled. "You always find a way to bribe me into relaxing." "Someone has to." We left the office together, the evening sun painting everything gold. For the first time in years, I didn't feel haunted by memories. I felt carried by them. Outside, I paused by the steps, watching the sky bleed orange and red. "Funny thing about pain," I murmured. "It makes you stronger, but only if you stop living inside it." Grace looked at me curiously. "What are you thinking about?" I smiled. "Just how peace isn't something you find. It's something you build." She slipped her hand into mine. "Then you've built it beautifully." I looked at her, truly looked. "No," I said softly. "We built it." For a moment, the world felt still. The wind brushed past, gentle and forgiving. In the distance, I imagined Clara and Liam, living with their choices, facing their own storms. I didn't wish them harm. I didn't wish them happiness either. Just understanding, because in the end, their betrayal hadn't destroyed me, it had transformed me. As we walked away, I whispered to myself, they taught me that love without truth is just illusion. And in losing them, I found everything I needed.